sound?
Quiet on set. All you're rolling.
Okay, coming.
Sivan?
No, more coming.
More like this?
Yeah.
You want this?
Yeah, we
Go
did-
go
yeah,
go out,
yeah.
go out.
No.
Wait, cut that. We didn't rolling yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Sivan, take one.
Okay.
Yeah. Because,
Come, come.
Your mic is
rolling. Sound.
All you're rolling.
Rolling.
Mic is in.
Sivan, take one.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey,
No. Let's say action is.
hey, your mic is in. Yeah.
So everything's okay?
Yeah.
Good. Don't shoot the camera because sound is different. Okay. Action.
Up higher.
Okay. Sivan,
Yes.
can you introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Sivan Arbel. I'm a jazz vocalist and composer, and I'm originally from Israel, and I moved to New York almost 3 years ago.
I will give a simple question. Can you tell the story? What if there were no flower on the planet? What will happen?
Yes.
Tell your story with your voice.
Mic is in.
Pretty short. So let's think together. If there were no plants, so it's just flower or all plants?
Flowering planet. Flower.
Only flowers. Were there trees?
However, the flowering plants would be 90% of plants.
Okay. So 90% of plants, meaning a lot of sadness and death. And because basically what we live on, what we breathe is from plants, it's from trees. We eat everything, and then basically meaning everything is gonna be wiped out. I don't know how people or animals or living things, molecules will live from each other. So I'm thinking, what will stay? Rocks and water, maybe? So probably a lot of stuff will be growing in water. That's probably going to be the main thing that's going to be giving life somehow. But if you say that there are no plants there, so everything is going to die, basically. So that's me thinking about that.
Okay, how about telling your private story of a flower?
Yeah. So when you told me to think about a story, I remembered that maybe you don't know it, but I used to work selling flowers. There was a big shopping mall thing outdoors, because it was in Israel, and I was just there with the flowers. And there was a flower, the one that I loved the most, called, I don't know how it is in English, but in Hebrew it's called Netz Halav. It comes in different colors, but the one that we had was white, and that the inside of it was yellow. And when I saw it, I thought it was really pretty, and then I sniffed it, I smelled it, and it was the best smell. So when there weren't any people around, I would just like smell the flower and really enjoyed it. And and I'm there talking to people selling the flowers. And by the end of the day, I go to my car and I look in the mirror and I see that all my nose is yellow. So I say, well, at least it's worth it because it was a good smell. So that's my personal story about flowers.
Okay, the last question.
Yes.
Do you have ever composed a song of a flower or
ever composed a song about flowers? No, but I am composing now a song overall about change. So when you're going through changes inside of you, so you're going through all these stages that you are aware that you're going through these changes, but you don't know how to deal with it, and you're in this off-balance state of being, of soul, physically. And I also look at it from a perspective of nature, that seasons change, leaves change, all that, and then so even nature, like, it affects also us as beings and everything around us. So when the leaves change, when something, let's say we're in summer and then we're going towards winter, we know that there is a change. People are getting sick, people are getting, disoriented sometimes, just because nature is like that. But we know that we're on our way. So I'm actually composing that right now.
Yeah, probably connected to the moment, inspiration about the song.
Can you say that again?
I will ask one more.
Okay.
If you have life, you have a favorite song called Flower. Can you sing or do?
There's a song, I don't know if it's about a flower. What's a honeysuckle rose? I think that's a flower, right? Yeah, it's a cool jazz tune. I need to move. Every honeybee filled with jealousy when they see you out with me. I don't blame them, my goodness knows. Honeysuckle rose. When you're passing by, flowers you inside, and I know the reason why. You're my sweeter, goodness knows. Honeysuckle rose. I don't buy sugar, you just have to touch my cup. You're my sugar. It's so sweet when you're staring up, when I'm taking sips from your tasty lips. Seems the honey failure trips. You're my pleasure, goodness knows. Honey, I saw a cool rose.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Done. Okay, cut.
Everyone
No, not yet.
No?
Yeah.
Shoot a roll. Reminder not to walk back there.
Yeah.
Nobody can work,
Stop.
please.
Thank you.
Okay, rolling.
Jordan.
Audio roll.
Where should I be looking at him or okay?
Looking at Junhan is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Here?
Good.
Laura, take one.
Laura, take one.
Okay, ready? Okay, action.
Hey, Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura Dotterer. I am an American citizen. I am an ESOL teacher. I teach English as a second language. And I have been living in New York City and teaching for the past 17 years. And I am happy to be here.
Thank you for coming to the event. And I'd like to ask you a simple question.
Okay.
What if there were no flowers
Mm-hmm.
on this planet? What did happen? Tell me your story.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question to imagine this planet Earth without flowers. Having been born as a human on this planet, I have always been surrounded by flowers. So to imagine a world without flowers is, I would say, very depressing. I can't imagine that there would be life. I think it's an absolute necessity. for our world to sustain life in animal and human in plant form, by having plants and by having continual growth of plants. So to imagine a world without plants is a very depressing thought, and I think I might not be thinking about it for too long, because I think without any plants we might not even exist on this planet.
I see. It seems like a little bit big talk. Big talk. Can you say your story? Can you tell your story in your life? Why?
Yeah, actually, when I think about flowers, I always have a memory of when I was a little girl with the flower called the buttercup. And I remember as a child, my best friend and we played together on the street, we played outside, and we always used to love to find the buttercups and put them to each other's chins. Because the tradition is that the buttercup, if you see yellow on your chin, that means you like butter. So that always remains a memory to me. So when I see that flower, it's very nostalgic. It reminds me of my childhood. Also the dandelion. As a child, we used to love to pick up the dandelions and blow them into the wind. So I think flowers take on a very important role in people's lives from childhood all throughout life. Flowers, obviously from a nature standpoint, they provide oxygen, plants do in general, that we need in order to live on this planet. But it's more than that. There's a spirit in this world. There's a spirit, and the spirit is filled with colors, with life, with blooming flowers, with nature surrounding us. And I think that spirit also contributes to how well as a humankind, we are able to live and to live happily on this planet. Of course, there's a lot of depression, and there's unfortunately a lot of climate change happening. So we are seeing a depletion of flowers and plants in general. And that's very sad, because it's really affecting people in so many different ways. Flowers have a very important visual role in our lives. And they are a part of so many celebrations: birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, gifts, Valentine's Day. So flowers have a very, very large role as in our lives as human beings, from biological to visual, also the smell that they emit. People who can't see, well, they can certainly interact and enjoy flowers through their smell or sense of touch. So without flowers, it's really depriving humanity and depriving this planet of something that is so necessary in order to live and to live happily.
Yes. So I will give you more last question.
Okay.
Actually, as I may know
Mhm.
about your life,
Mm-hmm.
you had lived in Italy.
Yes.
You live in US, New York,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you are gonna live in Shanghai.
Yes.
Yes, I think the people in each country
Mm-hmm.
think the meaning of flower. What do you think about the flower? The meaning of the flower in Italy, in US.
Yeah. I think in all countries, in all continents, in the Americas, in Europe, in Asia, I would imagine. I haven't lived in Asia yet, but I'm going to be very soon. But I've interacted in certain Asian events here in New York City, so I have a little bit of an understanding and experience. And when I think about these, from funerals to birthdays, in each country, each culture, flowers and plants are integral to people. In the United States, it's interesting because people often in their own individual homes, they want a place where they can live with a garden. They want to be able to, that's a very enticing element when choosing a place to live, that you have outdoor space so you can actually cultivate, you can actually produce flowers and plants. Some people need to do that to sustain, to sustain and their own living, but some people want that in order to be surrounded by beautiful gardens and have a place to relax and enjoy friendships and celebrations. In Italy, I would say flowers are very important. I'm also a photographer, and when I lived in Italy for 3 years, I always had my camera driving around the center part of Italy called Umbria, which is called the green heart of Italy because of its green mountains, a lot of the greenery surrounding that region. And I was very lucky to have the opportunity to see the cultivation of sunflower fields. And always I was drawn while driving to stop the car and to go into the fields and to photograph the flowers. The flowers, these types of flowers, I mean, they're planted, they're produced by, there's a lot of control, in other words, as with farmers planting the seeds and growing the fields, and those flowers then convert into sunflower oil. But just driving and having those fields surrounding you, the yellow sunflowers, it's just a stunning view. It's hard to really put in words. But every time I would be driving, I would just be drawn to stop the car and just to go wandering into the field and photograph them. I almost felt like those particular flowers, sunflowers, were almost mimic people because they're as tall as people and they turn toward the sun. So you almost think that these flowers have a mind of their own. There's definitely a spirit that comes from these flowers. And I'm looking forward to my experience in China to see also how flowers play an important role in the lifestyle there as well. So.
Yes, probably we will ask you your experience in Shanghai.
In Shanghai,
Yeah,
yes. Later, yes. I can't really say much yet, so.
Okay, cut guys.
Yeah? Okay.
Camera rolling.
Good.
You get the AC?
Yeah, we will turn off.
Cool. Audio rolling.
Oh wait, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Max, take one.
Hi, my name is.
Okay. Okay. Please don't try to move,
Okay.
guys. The floor is. Okay. Action.
Okay, my name is Max Zimmer, and I am a graphic design student, and I'm originally from Germany, and I live in Brooklyn right now, and I'm happy to be here.
Can I give some question?
Yeah.
Simple question. So, what if there were no flowering plants on the planet?
No
What would
flowers. If there were no flowers on the planet, I think aside of the world being very gray or just lacking color and like being dry and just not being colorful, I think that the world will be a lot less romantic. Yeah, because I think it would make more sense if I would put it this way. What or how could you tell someone that you love them without using those exact words?
Oh. Wow. Do you have any
Yeah.
romantic story related to
Oh no,
flowers?
it's just an example. But I think a really good way to do that would to give someone a rose or a flower, and I think that a flower in itself, besides the fact it's a very important component of nature and the environment, that it has a very powerful meaning, and I think that that's the reason why the world without flowers would be a lot less romantic. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask? Can you tell This story.
yeah, specify on it
Yeah, can you tell this story in German?
in German.
Yeah.
So just switch up right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so die Frage war, wie die Welt ausschauen würde oder wirken würde, wenn es keine Blumen gäbe. Und meine Antwort war, dass die Welt nicht nur an Farbe mangeln würde, sondern dass die Welt an sich auch weniger romantisch wäre. Und dass die Blume an sich eine sehr tiefe und wichtige Bedeutung hat, und zwar die Bedeutung der Liebe und menschlichen Verbindung. Und deswegen würde ich sagen, dass die Welt nicht so romantisch wäre, wenn Blumen nicht existieren würden.
Okay. Pronunciation.
Yeah.
Do you have any another story or idea about flower or flowering plants?
I think one thing that I could come up with by myself is when I was in Germany, I would always visit my grandparents' house, and they had a garden, and in the garden there were a lot of flowers. And for us back then, we would go out at the garden, we would see all these colors from the flowers, and it was like, because we were there so often, we would go back there so often, it was like we would take the flowers for granted, like it was just normal to us. But when we moved away, like coming to New York, which is a city that's like, has a lot more like buildings, and it's not as like well harvested with flowers and stuff. And so when we came here and they were not the same amount of flowers, it was kind of weird in the beginning, because we would think back of being in Germany and seeing them like pretty much every second day. And it's kind of, because if you think about a flower, it's this little like fragile thing that's like basically defenseless to anything, because it's just there and it can't really move. And so people would step on it and not really care. But my grandma, when we would do that, my grandma would get really mad at us, because she knows how much time and nurture and water and sun and nights and days passing it takes for a flower to grow, and how you can just destroy it by stepping on it or just not paying attention to where you're going. And I think that kind of made me personally more attentive and respectful towards flowers and the environment as a whole, I would say. Yeah.
Back to your first story. Can you? What kind of color can you find in New York City, big city?
What kind of flowers?
What kind of color?
Color?
Yeah.
I think the easiest way to find flowers in New York is when you go, obviously to the parks. My favorite park, personally, is Washington Square Park. And the flowers there, like, that's where I see, like, most of the flowers, especially during the summer. And it really does give me a homey feeling. Like, it makes me feel like I'm in home in some way, because, like I said, it reminds me of my grandmother's house. And I think that during the summer, Washington Square Park is a really like great place to find a really colorful like amount of flowers, and it gives you the summer feeling, and for me personally, the feeling of home. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
job.
Okay. Thank you.
Audio rolling. Audio rolling. Yeah, right?
Juliana, take one.
Hi, my name is Juliana. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. My story with New York lasts more than 9 years since I've been back and forth, and I'm a Portuguese teacher here. Yeah?
Yeah. I'll give us information.
Okay.
What if? There are no,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay, take one.
Yeah. What if there are no flowers on the grave? What happened in your life?
If I had no flowers in my life, okay. So I was born and raised in Rio, a place that it's known by its natural beauty. So for me, nature has always been something really important. And when I was younger, I used to write poetry. So I used to be inspired by the water, the sand, the beaches that everybody knows in my city. And I've always been really close to poetry. So I think that a world without plants, flowers, would be a world without poetry. Because you wouldn't have the sound of a tree, the shade for you to rest and think about your life. So the life would be sad and empty. The world would be nothing without plants. It would be without color, and I need color, I need sound, I need smells to be happy.
Can you tell this story
In Portuguese?
yeah,
Okay.
Portuguese?
Pode?
Yeah. No, not doing it. This is okay, so you can come.
You want me to repeat the previous one? Não? Só em português? Ah, não, pronto. Bom, eu... Pode?
Sorry, is the AC on? Something's on.
The previous one? Yeah, okay.
See, I feel like it's cutting.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I touched
You're
this
good.
thing.
Okay, we're good. Okay, we're good now.
So I do the previous one? Okay.
Okay, yeah, start.
You have to ask me again?
What if there were no flower on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
What would happen in your life?
In my life.
In
Okay.
life?
So I was born and raised in Rio. Yes, okay. So I was born, no problem. So I was born and raised in Rio, a place that is known by its natural beauty all over the world, and where I am really proud to be born. And when I was younger, I used to write poetry. So for me, nature has always been like an inspiration source. So I think that I cannot imagine actually a world without flowers, because that would be a world without color, without the sound of a wind, without a shade to rest. And for me, that would be a world sad without poetry. So I wouldn't like to live in a world like this one. And now I tell this in Portuguese.
Yes. Let's go another question.
Okay.
Actually, I met you again.
Mm-hmm.
Last time you told us
Mm-hmm.
when you see the flowers,
Mm-hmm.
you were thinking was divided New Zealand and Brazil.
Yes.
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 How about your mom? Do you have a story related to your mom also about flower?
I do, yeah. Actually, I was thinking about this story. And I remember that when I was 15, in Brazil, it's a big deal when you turn 15 for a girl. You are like a new lady that will present to society. So I remember that was the first time I got flowers from my parents. But actually, I have a more recent story about flowers because my father passed away less than 15 days ago. And I remember that I could not be there for his funeral. And I asked my mother which clothes did she choose for my father to for his funeral. And she said that, I chose these clothes and that clothes. But she said that his body was all covered by flowers. And somehow after that, I felt in peace because I knew that my father was beautiful and covered by flowers. So yes, that's my story.
Well,
Okay. Can you say this story in Portuguese?
I can try. The first question, yeah. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So the first one,
Yeah.
my life without flowers. Okay. Can I?
You can read it
Yeah.
if you are ready.
Yeah, okay. Yes? Bom, eu nasci e fui criada no Rio de Janeiro, uma cidade que é conhecida pelas belezas naturais no mundo todo e um lugar do qual eu sou muito orgulhosa de ter nascido. E quando eu era mais nova, eu escrevia poesia. Então a natureza para mim sempre foi uma fonte de inspiração. Eu sempre precisei da sombra de uma árvore para pensar, do barulho do vento, das cores das flores. Então eu acho que o mundo sem flores e plantas seria um mundo vazio, sem poesia. E eu não queria viver num mundo assim. Is it? Is it? Okay.
Sound. We need time. Rolling.
Audio rolling. Audio rolling.
Barbara, take 1.
Okay, action.
Hello, my name is Barbara. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Hi, my name is Barbara. I'm from Czech Republic, living in New York about 2 years, back and forth. And I'm translator, kind of, waiters. Yeah, both of these. And I'm here to share with you some of my story.
Okay. I'll give one question, simple question. What if there are no friends, flowering friends, on this planet, in New York, in Czech Republic, in Asia, in Europe? What will happen to your life?
So, I would say actually the importance of flowers or flowering plants I realized only since I moved here. When I first got to New York, I didn't like it. It was just a gray jungle of concrete, and I couldn't get to it. And I never thought I loved nature. I was more like a city girl, and only coming here, I realized that there is something I really miss. And only later, when I started to look around, I saw so many parks and so many beautiful plants, and started to like New York, think of those places. But if it wouldn't be for those, for Highline, for Central Park, Prospect Park, I wouldn't be able to stay here. So in my life, if there would be no plants, I don't see like why to live, like no smell, no colors, no. It's not even about those things you can describe. It's even just things that just the feeling that it gives you, the peace. Yeah, that would be. So I can't imagine a world for me without plants or flowers.
What the emotion?
What's the emotion that it gives me? It's I would almost say a happiness or peace both together. Like if I go and I'm surrounded by nature, I don't need nothing else. So the emotion, if I would have to describe perfectly, yeah, happiness and peace both together.
Actually, your story would be about the individual. How can I tell you this story with the relationship with the others? Imagine your family, or your friends, or your lover.
Well, for me, like thinking about family and flowers, it's definitely my mom. She loves gardening. She's all the time on her garden, and that might be a reason why I need these flowers. And I never realized I did needed it, and I only started need it since I'm here, whereas she is back in my country. So it might be my mom who brought me to this love, because there is no way for her to live without it. Actually, when she came to my apartment a few months ago, that was her who helped me to plant some basils and tomatoes, and we now have something else to talk about, how are my tomatoes growing, and that's really that's something I have like with my mom. Also, actually, my mother-in-law, she loves plants, and it's another like how I get like really great well together. We can talk about how her plants in her garden goes, and it's not just like you have something to talk about, because it's something you do share with them. You do care about those things, and I know. Another thing I can only think it's the bouquet I have on my wedding, which more I care, it's the wedding itself, obviously, but the flower, it just made the day even nicer. I don't know, there is no wedding without a bouquet, right?
Okay, last question. Can you say the first story about flower in your language?
All right, the first one?
Yeah, first one.
Nedokážu si představit žít ve světě bez květin, bez rostlin. Nikdy jsem si to nemyslela, až dokud jsem nepřijela do New Yorku. Až tady, když jsem přijela do téhle betonové džungle, jsem pochopila, že bez květin se nedá žít. Až poté, když jsem objevila, jaké jsou tu nádherné parky, Central Park, Prospect Park, teprve tehdy jsem dokázala na tomhle místě plném budov a aut a lidí žít. Protože bez květin, bez rostlin, bez života zeleného se nedá žít. Je to jakýsi pocit, který ani nedokážu popsat. Štěstí a klid, který nám tento život přináší. Thank you. Děkuji.
Rolling, coming in, rolling, coming in, rolling. Rolling. Sound. Alright. Audio rolling. Audio rolling.
James, take one.
Action.
Okay, James, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is James York. I'm a native New Yorker, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I run a marketing agency here in New York City.
Yes. I'll give one simple question.
Mm-hmm.
Can we kind of stop it right there? We got the AC on and.
Yeah.
Full of keep on. That's good.
Mhm.
AC as well? That's good.
First, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alright.
Am I looking at you?
Still rolling.
Okay.
Stay rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Steady. The next camera.
Mm-hmm.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is James York, and I'm a native New Yorker. I'm an entrepreneur, and I run a marketing agency here in New York City.
Okay, thank you for coming to this event.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give one simple question.
Can I get one kiss?
What can I get one question?
No. Can I give you one question? In your like office or like
Mhm.
while you're working, can you see flowers?
No. It's a pretty bare office in terms of life, other than the people in it. Most of our days are spent staring at screens. So definitely, when you can step away from work and away from the desk, and you can go outside, and there's this burst of color and burst of life, and it's a sunny day, and you can smell the flowers in the air. It definitely lifts your spirits and helps you feel connected to the real world again, especially when you spend so much time looking at things purely online.
Can you say like this shortly? While I'm working in the office,
Mhm.
I can see flowers, so that's why I go
Mhm.
to lunch in the park or something,
Mhm.
maybe to feel like nature.
Mhm. So when I'm at work, there are no flowers in the office, and most of my day is spent staring at a glowing screen or two, and you can feel really disconnected from the real world around you. So when I take a step away and I go get lunch, or the day is finished and I take a step outside, it's really refreshing to be able to look around and breathe in fresh air and see flowers growing around you, and it kind of revitalizes you after being drained in front of technology for the entire day.
Yeah. Have you ever grown the plants with wife and your son?
So I have a son, and he's 3 years old, and he's curious about everything, especially nature. He loves every sort of plant, tree, animals, birds, butterflies, and flowers are one of his favorite things because they're so diverse. They have different textures, they have different colors, they have different smells, and butterflies like to go sit on them. So they're something that when we're out in the park, and we're taking a walk together as a family, he's always going out and seeking different flowers and asking what they are, and exploring them and seeing what they feel like. And if a butterfly comes and lands on it, then he's extra thrilled. So it's I'd say a big part of his childhood is nature and flowers in particular.
Okay, so let's talk about the big talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think about big talk. What if there were no flowers on this planet? What happened?
So if there were no flowers on the planet, I think that we would all be at a significant loss. Flowers are such an intimate part of the human condition. It's something that's been a part of our culture, no matter where you are in the world, from the beginning of human history. It serves as a symbolic gesture, whether you're giving flowers on an anniversary or on a birthday. Flowers help you to kind of feel calm and pull yourself out of your own headspace and your own day, and kind of take a step back and reconnect with nature. And if there were no flowers, I think we'd all be poorer for it. Aside from the havoc that it would wreak on the environment, not being able to, have all the different species that rely on flowers as part of their cycles, we would have just environmental devastation, and I think also cultural devastation.
Well, thank you for coming to this event.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to grow flowers in your home?
I haven't, but my mother has a flower that is still from her father. So my grandfather, who I never met. And for me, the flower has just been something that's always kind of been around my childhood home growing up. But she still has it decades later. And for her, it has such a sentimental value because it's something that connects her to her parent. And now, as a parent myself, I can appreciate that in a different way. And I know that if Carl were to have a plant long after I'm gone, which I hope will be in a very long time, but if he were to keep a plant that we had as a family that was part of his childhood, I think that it would act as a sort of a link across time, and an emotional connection through a living organism that you just can't really replicate through photos.
Dong Hyang, take one.
Okay, action.
Okay, hi.
Hi,
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself?
my name is Donghyun Kang, and I'm a PhD engineer in electronic engineering, and I worked as a system engineer, principal system engineer for Samsung Electronics for 15 years, for developing communication algorithms such as LTE, 3GPP, and Wi-Fi. And I've been here for 10 months since last September, and I'm learning English and cultures and still enjoying the diversity of the New York City.
Okay, thank you for introducing yourself. And I will give a simple question.
Okay.
Your turn.
Oh.
Can you imagine a world without flowers?
Yeah. It's a simple question, good question, but difficult to answer. When I asked that kind of interview, I searched the definition of the flower in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it says the flower is the part of the plant that is often brightly colored and that usually lasts a short time, and from which the fruit and seeds develops. But there was the second meaning, that is the best part or the example. So sometimes we can say that the flower of my youth means that was the really best part of my youth. So I considered why we are metaphorically using the flower as our best part or the core things. I think that answer is on the first definition. The flower is really bright color, it has bright color, but it lasts on a short time. It is really difficult to bloom, but on a small period of time, it gives us the pleasure and happiness, romance, love, and lots of feelings for nothing. So that is really important thing of our life. So back to the question, if there's no flower, we'll lose most important part of my life.
Okay. So before I invited you to this event, I googled you all things.
You spying.
Yeah, you have the wife and one daughter and twins. You have 3 children.
Yeah.
A father.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me the story about the flower related to your family private story. It's more difficult to you.
Yeah, it's very difficult because that question is not I expected. Actually, flower, yeah. My wife loves flowers, so when I ask, the one thing I'm still sorry for her is that I didn't have any proposal with flowers to her. So, yeah. But anyway, she loves the flowers, so maybe I think one happy birthday for her. I sent the big flower pot to her company to showing everybody I can offer lots of flower with love to my wife. So at the time, my wife was really happy for that. For my kids, they are taking some flowers from their schools. Maybe I think they learned some kind of science class to growing the plants, and maybe I think they had some kind of homework to bloom the flower. But unfortunately, after a week, all the plant died. It was really bad thing. So I realized that the flower is really difficult, and maybe it requires more careness and
we have to make lots of efforts to take care of the flowers at the time.
Okay. The main.
Cut. Yeah, camera rolling.
Okay.
Action. So good. Rolling.
Sound is rolling.
Okay. Take 2.
Yeah. While you were
So quick step, repeat that. No, step back and to your right there. Go. Yeah.
yeah, while you were telling the story that your children did the homework to make the flower live, but your children made flower dead. How about thinking of this event is happening will affect to your children?
First, yeah, when they got the plant to grow at home, I told that growing the life is very difficult and it requires lots of careness. So I told them, but at the time they didn't really care about that. Maybe I think they thought that it grows automatically by themselves when they just put the water. But yeah, as you know, the plant not growing well, it is really meticulous or sensitive, so it requires lots of water, the exact time of the watering, and some kind of fertilizer, and lots of lights. And also, maybe I think it requires good atmospheres for that. For example, the love. But they didn't care about that. So after a week, when they found the plant dead, they feel really sorry about that because they didn't think what the flower can be dead even if they don't put some kind of efforts. So I think they feel sorrow, but they learned about that, some kind of lesson. Maybe the growing some lives is really difficult and requires more careness, I think.
Yeah. So
They got
your children have
maybe I think the bad emotion.
bad emotion.
Yeah.
The last question. Can you say your story, the first story in Korean?
Oh yeah. When I was
In Korean?
예. 한국은 내가 어렸을 때 한국은 개발도상국이었어요. 그러니까 디벨로핑 컨트리였어요. 그래서 그때는 굉장히 여기저기 공사장들이 많이 있었는데 그 공사장들이 일종의 우리들한테는 아지트였죠. 그래서 거기서 이제 아지트에 모여서 놀다가 사실 그때는 뭐 딱히 집에서 뭐 지금은 막 여기서 스낵이라는 거를 부모님들이 싸주지만 그때는 딱히 그렇게 가져갈 스낵들이 없었어요. 그래서 주변에 보면 사르비아라는 꽃이 널려 있었어요. 그게 한국말로는 사르비아, 아마 여기는 셀비아일 거예요. 이 꽃잎이 빨간데 거기 안에 있는 부분을 수수를 따서 이렇게 빨면 굉장히 단물이 나와요. 그러니까 그 사르비아가 우리들한테는 장난감이었고 뭐 스낵이었고 그리고 또 어떻게 보면 즐거움이었어요. 내일 가서 또 애들하고 또 그걸 먹어야지. 그러면 우리가 이만큼 이걸 먹어버리면 내일은 이걸 어디서 찾지? 이쪽에 있고 이쪽에 있고 그럼 얘네들을 어떻게 키워야 될까? 그래서 그때 이 꽃들이 정말 스스로 자라는지 키워야 되는지 이런 것들도 공부를 하게 됐고 그 어린 나이에 그래서 그냥 저한테 그 꽃이라는 거는 그때는 정말 같이 갈 수 있는 친구 그리고 함께 할 수 있는 즐거움 이런 것들이었던 것 같아요.
Okay. Probably, can you say can you tell the poem flower
Actually, 꽃이란 보통 이제 한국에서 꽃이라는 단어를 들을 때 제일 먼저 떠올리는 굉장히 그 페이머스한 포임이 김춘수 시인의 꽃이라고 생각을 해요. 한국에서는 굉장히 정말 좋은 시기 때문에 사실 이거를 한국말로 하는 것보단 영어로 변환해서 한번 들려드리는 게 굉장히 의미 있을 거라고 생각해요. 물론 굉장히 얕은 영어지만 한번 해본다면 Flower by 춘수 김. Before speaking her name, she had been nothing but a gesture. When I spoke her name, she came to me and became a flower. Now, who will tell my name? Who will speak my name? One fitting this color and fragrance of mine as I had spoken hers, so that I may go to her and become a flower. We all yearn to become something. I yearn to become an unforgettable meaning to you and you to me. That's all.
Okay. Can you send cut the email?